So I just wanted to, I actually asked to come up and introduce the team here. We have just an amazing team, news team and news program in Central Oregon called Central Oregon Daily. And today, yay! And we have the Central Oregon Daily team here. Today we have Emily Kirk, and we have, Droll Drum, Emmy-winning anchor and producer Alan Schaffler here. So I just want you to know that it's the first time the station the news team has received an Emmy, and probably one of the first in Central Oregon. So I just wanted to congratulate Alan, you and your team on the Emmy. Okay.
All right, wonderful, Michelle. Thanks for that. Hi, everybody. Holy cow, we're at an event with other people. Let's hear it for that. Wow,
fantastic.
This is awesome. Oh my gosh.
Don't you feel like we've sort of walked out of a long, dark tunnel and just burst into the sunshine?
The sunshine.
How good is all of this? And just watching you all shake hands and hug and peck each other on the cheek is just heartwarming. It's just fantastic to see. Really great.
Wonderful.
And we have something to take care of before we go any farther, because we need a selfie of us and all you beautiful people.
Yes, we do. That's right.
So
I said,
just bear with us right here.
Because I said, you know what? We haven't been in a place with this many people. We're getting a picture of it and getting documentation. So please, everyone, we're going to take a big selfie of all of us. Put your hands in the air like you just don't care, and we're out here on a Wednesday, and it's beautiful.
All right.
Okay, ready?
Ready.
Yay.
Done deal. Fantastic. Well, welcome to the REDI Annual Luncheon 2021, an event with the title that just sort of echoes that feeling of change and resilience and resurgence. Welcome to Redmond Rising Stories of Resiliency.
Yeah, fantastic. We're going to have a great afternoon here, everyone. Thanks for being here. And thanks to REDI for putting on such a great event. And today you'll be hearing from the Oregon Office of Economic Analysts about how Central Oregon, and specifically right here the city of Redmond, has survived COVID-19. And we're going to be forecasting some happenings here for the future. And we'll be listening to 3 business leaders here in Redmond who have survived and even thrived during this pandemic. So that'll be really interesting to hear from those folks later.
Yeah, it has been a tough go, we know, for so many people out there making our communities what they are. It's been a tough slog, and congratulations to all who have pulled through. And throughout the program, we're going to stop and pause and take time to honor and recognize the sponsors who have contributed so generously and supported this specific event. First up is going to be Central Oregon Community College and President Lori Chesley, who's joining us in the front table right here. So roll that beautiful bean video.
Hello, I'm Lori Chesley, President of Central Oregon Community College. We are proud to be a recurring title sponsor for this important community event focused on Central Oregon's economic development. COCC is here to support Central Oregon's economic recovery and workforce development. COCC is helping hundreds of capable graduates train quickly for a new career. We also partner with businesses to address regional employment needs. COCC is here to help your businesses remain resilient too, serving your business goals to reimagine and reinvigorate job training and hiring. Thank you for being here today for the REDI Annual Luncheon. Here's to the bright potential of Central Oregon when we work together.
Yeah, big thank you to COCC. And earlier this week, we actually read the story of your graduation you guys just had last week. And you had 650 degrees and certificates throughout the entire academic year. Is that right? So that's pretty impressive. COCC doing wonderful things here for our community. So big thank you to you and for being a sponsor for this event. Next, we are going to be hearing from John Stark. He's the director here at REDI. Where is John?
There he is.
John's hands in the air like you just don't care. That's right. Welcome, John. John is the director with REDI. He's going to be giving us the director's report on this lovely Wednesday afternoon. Really looking forward to hear what you have to say, John.
Otherwise known as the Lowdown Skinny from John Stark.
Thank you, Emily. Thank you, Ellen. Boy, is it nice to be out here, isn't it? You guys know the song, Luke Combs, 6 Feet Apart? He talks about the future when we don't have to be 6 feet apart anymore. Well, guess where we are? We're not 6 feet apart. We don't have masks on, And hopefully this is a sign of times to come that we can get out of this thing called COVID-19. My remarks today is about the tide rising. When the economic development tide rises, guess what? So do all the other tides. So with that, I want you to keep in mind a couple of numbers today. 700,000, 34, 133 million, and 136. Those are not arbitrary numbers. Those all have meaning behind them, and I'm going to tell you what that is. Well, 700,000 first. 700,000 represents the square foot or square feet that have been built in Redmond over the last 3 years because of demand by companies that are going to be on stage today, many that are in the audience. That is owner-occupied development and speculative development that has occurred here in Redmond or is under a planning initiative through the city to receive permits to begin to break ground. Others are under construction, so owner-occupied as well as speculative development, 700,000 square feet. What does that mean? Well, one, that means about $1 million per year in property taxes for essential services. That means a bunch of jobs that create income to spend in our community with all of you. A big deal. What else does that mean? Well, that means that 700,000 square feet is about half what we built in the preceding 100 years here in Redmond. It took us 100 years from 1910 when we became a city to 2010 to build about 1.5 million square feet. We're over 2 million today. We've got more coming. So that's exciting. That shows us what the runway looks like in terms of our future and our pipeline. And the one thing we can say about Redmond is we do have space and we have more coming. Some commercial brokers in the audience here that can certainly acknowledge that. 34, what's that? 34 is how many years REDI has been an organization supporting economic development in this city. 1987, we were founded, and over that 34-year history, we've had a lot of really great years, but honestly, in the middle of a pandemic, none like 2020. In 2020, we closed 10 real deals here in Redmond. We helped a lot more companies, but we helped 10 companies with major projects. That's the most we've had in our history. The next best year was 8 projects, so we did an additional 20% this year in the middle of a pandemic. To add to that, capital investment, $20 million. The last time we did that was when T-Mobile came to town in about 2005, 2004 era. So that's a big deal. Companies are spending that money in our community. They're adding jobs. They're adding income. 133. What's that? 133 is the capital investment that is pending here in Redmond. That means companies that are under construction or have a project plan, may have bought property already and they have projects planned. You're going to hear from a couple of them on the stage today with Wild Mike's Pizza. They purchased property. They're a part of that big number, 133 million. As is BaseX, who's not done yet. So is Medline, who's in the audience today with their expansion. 133 million. So 20 million this year, but we got 133 million in the books. We have better years ahead than what we've just had, and that was the best year we've had. So that's some really good news for the community, for sure. Thank you. With that 133 million, that's 546 jobs that are headed our way. So we know the employment's going to continue. We just got to find some people to fill them. 136. That's the number of individuals that underwrite the efforts of Redmond economic development. And many of you are in the audience. So let's give yourselves a round of applause for supporting us by being here, sponsoring an event, providing in-kind services to REDI. 136 individuals, businesses, and government agencies supporting the work of Redmond economic development. Thank you all. I appreciate it. And then the last is, I didn't give you a number, A+. That's a grade. As I think about my going on 12-year career here in Redmond economic development, the support of this community has been an A+. And we just can't do this without you. We can't do it without you. We have years ahead that requires our services. So if you haven't become a member of REDI, you're going to hear a little bit of how and why you might want to do that with a video that we have coming up. And we just can't do it without investors. A couple of them I want to recognize. Sponsors in this case. So first, I'd like to recognize Pacific Power. Matt's here. Raise your hand. Thank you for being a presenting sponsor of this event. What a great day to be out here. Hooker Creek Companies. Also, a local company that's sponsoring this event as a presenting sponsor. And then Redmond Municipal Airport, or RDM. We're so thankful for our presenting sponsors. Let's give a round of applause for RDM. And lastly, I'm just going to say it one time, but I have a new swear word. It's called COVID-19. And maybe now we can say for the first time that we don't have to say, well, because of the pandemic, it's this way. Well, because of the pandemic, guess what? We're all here. We're not inside a building over there. We're out here. What a nice day Mother Nature has dialed up for us. Thank you very much for your time. More to come. Yeah. One last thing. We got some elected officials in the audience. I saw several city councilors here. Can you please rise? Shannon, you're in the audience. Mayor Chrisana. Ed Fitch is here. Who else did I miss? Tony DeBone is here. Oh, Patty, I didn't recognize you with the hat on. Great. Hey, let's give a round of applause for our elected officials, and Phil Chang is here. Hey, all the commissioners are here. Let's have a meeting in the back. We got a quorum, right? I didn't say that. Thank you all for being here, elected officials, and all of you individually and as businesses for supporting us. And I'm going to turn it back over to these fine folks, and they'll take us away on the program. Thank you.
John, thank you so much. John Stark, ladies and gentlemen, helping drive the REDI bus. Just look around you. This is sort of what a lot of us are here for and what we come to Central Oregon for the natural beauty, for 360-degree mountain ranges and blue sky as far as you can see. We come here to find employment, to seek careers, to build families, to create a home, to create businesses. And it's a spectacular place to do all of that, as we all know. Also, it's a spectacular place, Redmond in particular, because of the people who are here, the people who are making it what it is and making it a really amazing place to live and work and visit and do business.
That's right. Redmond really is the hub. Always has been. That's why it's called the hub. The economic vitality wouldn't exist here if it weren't for the Redmond Economic Development, Inc., or REDI. And for REDI, much of the work that it does happens to be behind the scenes. You might not see a lot of that in your day-to-day work, but you know that they are working very hard in the background. And this video that we're about to show you does tell the REDI story.
Home is where the heart is. It's where our kids go to school. It's where we work and play. It's where we plant our roots. And we're looking to build a strong future for everyone in the heart of Oregon's fastest growing region. And with your help, the possibilities are endless. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
I'm ready.
I'm ready.
I'm ready. At Redmond Economic Development Incorporated, we believe all business is big business. From startups just getting off the ground to established companies that continue to thrive. Each business that opens its doors in Redmond has a butterfly effect that uplifts and empowers the entire community by creating jobs, creating wealth, creating dreams. And with every dollar you invest into REDI, you help encourage economic growth here at home. And as Redmond grows, so does your business. So what are you waiting for? Are you ready to invest in Redmond's future?
I'm ready.
I'm ready.
I'm ready.
I'm ready. Are you?
Redmond Economic Development Incorporated, guiding business forward for the past 34 years. Join us and become an investor at REDIinfo.com today, and let's build a future together.
I'm ready.
Fantastic. We are ready. And a big thanks to SunWest Construction for sponsoring that video, and to Tim Park and our production crew at CO Daily for helping produce that video. We are all part of the Redmond story, to be sure. We're ready. Are you? That's the question.
That's the question we're asking today. We would also like to thank, again, one of our sponsors again this afternoon, Ben Broadband and Nicole Christensen. Are you here today, Nicole? There's a big wave. Big round of applause for Ben Broadband for being one of our sponsors today as well. And we do have a video here for Ben Broadband.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nicole Christensen. I am an Associate Manager of Field Marketing for Bend Broadband. We are excited and honored to come back as a sponsor for the REDI Annual Luncheon this year. We are also so happy to be a part of the Redmond community. Thank you for letting us be a part of your community, and thank you to REDI for all that you do. Bend Broadband offers TV, internet, and phone service for home and business. Speeds up to 1 gig and the latest in home entertainment with our TDS TV Plus platform. Please visit bendbroadband.com for more details. Thank you all for attending, and I hope you enjoy.
Many thanks again to Nicole and to Bend Broadband.
That's right. Coming up next, Josh Lehner is an economist with the Oregon Office of Economic Analysis. Josh develops the state's quarterly economic forecast, including outlooks for employment, income, and housing. And Josh is actually going to be joining us virtually here this afternoon from Salem. He's going to be providing a projection of what's next and how Oregon plans to prepare for that pandemic recovery, which I think is on a lot of people's minds.
Certainly is. Josh Lehner from Salem.
Great to be with you all noon this afternoon now and bring overall good news, right? Our office, we do the economic and revenue forecasting for the state. You're probably more familiar with our work in terms of the kicker. The kicker is not that you overpaid your taxes. The kicker is not that the state took in more money than they expected. It's really that our forecast from 2 years ago was too low, and that's really what drives the kicker, and that's our fault when that happens. That's me. Overall, though, from here on out, we're expecting really, really good growth this year. And the primary reason for that is due to federal aid. The policies that have been put in place at the federal level in the last year have really taken care of the demand side of the economy, the income, the wealth, the consumer spending for years to come, if we're going to be frankly honest about it. And so the demand side of the economy is very, very strong and will be for years to come. We're really more concerned about the supply side of the economy and how fast it can actually grow. How fast can the supply side, the production, the labor, keep up pace with the amount of consumer demand that we're expecting to see. First chart here is just looking at real GDP in the economy. So this is output. This is goods and services produced. Annualized, your annual numbers. What you see is 2021 is the strongest year that we've seen in decades, if not generations, right? We have to go back to 1984, Morning in America, to see real GDP growth in this 6, 7, 8% range. Just this morning, the Federal Reserve came out with their latest projections an hour ago. They're saying 7% for this year. Then strong growth next year, and then we kind of taper down after that because we'll get back to full employment, not earlier. So this is the baseline. The baseline is for the strongest growth we've seen in a generation, if not longer. That's the baseline that everyone's at right now. And the main reason has to do with this income story. Here we're looking at incomes in Oregon, total amount of income in the state of Oregon, kind of over the course of recent business cycles. We're at the red line. We're at that second mountain peak right now. That was the first quarter of this year. We don't have the hard data yet that comes out next week, but our forecast means incomes in Oregon as of March 2021, a couple months ago, were 20% higher than they were at the start of the pandemic due to the federal aid. And of course, the biggest one that went out in March was that third round of recovery rebates, $1,400 per person, to bring it up to the $2,000 per person. And so at that point in time, incomes were up higher than we've ever seen before at this point in a business cycle. And we haven't been able to spend the money, right? It's kind of been accumulating in bank accounts. If we look at the national data, we're up about $2.5 trillion in household savings, what's called excess savings above and beyond the normal trends in household savings. Since the start of the pandemic, you talk to some of our advisors here in Oregon, our banks and our credit unions, they're saying retail deposits are up 25, 30%. This is just money just sitting in the bank account waiting to be spent when people feel confident and safe enough and they want to venture back out. And so the question was, right, one of the questions over the last 6 to 9 months is would people be hesitant? It is a global pandemic, right? Yeah, cases are dropping, which is great news. But would people be hesitant, or would they just plow right back into everything that we haven't been able to do in the last year? And encouragingly, the news on the consumer spending front is 100%. We just jumped off the cliff and plowed right back into everything we've been doing prior to the pandemic. Here we're looking at video lottery sales, Oregon in the dotted line, Redmond, zip code 97756, right? In the blue line, we set all sorts of records in recent months when it comes to video lottery spending. It's broader than that, but this is our best real-time indicator we have in Oregon spending. We've never seen these types of numbers. People had the income, they were sitting at home, cabin fever is very real. And as the pandemic wanes and as we're allowed to venture back out, we certainly feel confident and safe enough in going out and spending money. You think about this happens in a closed indoor environment, bars and restaurants, the most impacted sector of the economy. The consumer spending and the demand has come roaring back even stronger than anticipated. Really, at every point since a year ago, at the worst of the pandemic, right, is the economy has proved more resilient. And consumers more, spending growth has been stronger than anticipated, really at every point since the depths of the crisis last April and May. And so you can see it here. So what does this mean for the overall outlook? Well, something to keep in mind is that all the stuff that's been restricted in the last year, either out of fear of the virus or due to outright health restrictions themselves, when it comes to things like getting on airplanes, going on vacations, going out to eat, getting your hair cut and the like, these are all very labor intensive industries. It takes a lot of manpower or woman power to make these businesses run. And so as the consumer shift out of just buying everything online and having it delivered to your doorstep back into these in-person consumer services, this shift in spending is very pro-jobs, very labor intensive sectors. We're going to see tremendous job growth over the course of the next year. And so what we've done in our forecast for the state of Oregon, we're looking at, this chart shows you employment across recent business cycles. You start at 0 on the left. This is how many jobs you had before the recession hit. As you drop down, it's the severity of the cycle. So we saw record levels of job losses associated with the pandemic in Oregon and in Central Oregon. And then as you work your way back up to the right is the recovery. But this shift in spending into these labor intensive sectors, we front loaded that job growth. You can see very, very steep red line here over the next 6-9 months. To the point where it's the fastest job growth on record is what we're expecting. Again, the strongest GDP growth in a generation, if not longer, fastest job growth on record in Oregon. Now, this is the demand side, the demand-driven side of the economy. And the real concern is the downside in the sense, not that we'll have a double-dip recession, not that we'll have a languishing economy, but really, will we see this exceptional growth, or are we just going to get very good growth instead, right? And that's going to be all about the supply side of the economy. And how fast are we actually allowed to grow due to all these different sort of constraints that we're showing in the economy. Here's just a framework our office put together. The stuff in red on the left, these are constraints today. Growth would be faster if not for these hurdles that we have to overcome. The things in blue on the right are things that have tripped up the economy a little bit historically, but are not currently issues today, but are well worth watching because they can always rear their heads at various points in time. I'm going to talk today about two of these. Capacity and labor, because these are the two most important components for long-run economic growth. It's all about how many workers do you have in your economy, and then how productive each worker is. Don earlier talked a lot about the investments that's going on in Redmond, which is great news. That means the local workforce is being more productive. We're seeing large investments that grow the economy, and then of course you got to have the workers to fill the positions. Which in Central Oregon will come with population growth. Deschutes County is expected to be the fastest growing population-wise county in the state of Oregon in the decade ahead, really the 2 decades ahead. And even if you adjust that, right, the little older demographics, a little more retirement migration, even if you adjust for that and you look at the working age population or estimates of potential labor force, Deschutes is still far and away the fastest growing county in the state. So that labor supply will be there, of course, with all the businesses looking to hire and expand. Increased competition for those workers will remain, it's a good dynamic to have for the overall economy. But first on the business side of things, Central Oregon, Deschutes County in particular, has really diversified in recent decades. Going from a small timber dependent communities to something that timber is still very important in Oregon and certainly in Central Oregon too, but less so today than before because we've diversified. We're adding lots of jobs in healthcare. We're adding lots of jobs in kind of white collar professional classes. A lot of that's happening, to be honest, it's happening a little bit more in Bend than maybe in Redmond, but the manufacturing growth, the chart you see on the right, it's all in Redmond. That space, that land availability, the spec development, the leasing opportunities that are available in the Redmond area are really driving this growth. The chart on the right, the manufacturing gains in the 5 years leading up to the pandemic, U.S. manufacturing jobs increased 5%. So 1% a year. That's actually really good growth. If you look at, the last 40 years of manufacturing, 1% annual growth is pretty good. Oregon is 10%. That was 2% a year. That's really good. In Oregon, we always outperform on the manufacturing, or at least we historically have. We have a better mix, a more modern mix. We have less automobiles and textile mills that you see in the Rust Belt in the South a generation ago. We have more semiconductors. We have, more wood products. We have more aerospace and the like, and a lot of more modern mix of manufacturers. You look at Deschutes County, excluding Redmond, we're at 18% growth. So, almost 4% annual growth, which is tremendous. Then we look at Redmond specifically, and this data comes from the employment department, 50% manufacturing job growth in Redmond in the last 5 years, 10% a year. Tremendous. I'm not aware of anywhere quite like this. And that speaks to the ability to plan. It speaks to the ability to attract and the ability to see these investments locally. And this is a really, really important thing. Some of the strong growth we're seeing is in machinery manufacturing, seeing strong, more stable trends in wood products. Those are two of the largest subsectors of manufacturing in Redmond. And then a newcomer on the scene that's seeing good growth, and we'll hear about in a little bit, would be food manufacturing. I'm not just choosing these three industries because they're important in Redmond. We're choosing these three industries also to highlight because they're important nationally. This chart looks at U.S. manufacturing production, industrial production, and where we're seeing a lot of these firms run up against these supply constraints, right? And the bubbles, if you're at the origin, you're around 0 or above it, you're really at this level of production where you can't produce more without a big investment, whether you invest in new plants, new equipment, or add in an extra shift of labor to produce more products to accommodate that strong consumer demand. And so you need to make these big long-term investments. You have to be confident enough in your firm's ability to take the investment, and then the demand will be there in the years ahead to make it pay off for financial purposes. And so we're bumping up against this capacity constraints across the board, across the economy. And we're certainly seeing these investments in Redmond, which will grow the local economy from a macro perspective, from a U.S. economy perspective. We need these, right? We kind of hit this same point back in 2017, 2018, and we didn't really get that business investment at a nationwide level. Yeah, we cut corporate taxes to provide incentives to invest on the business side of things, but at the same time, we ramped up a global trade war, and so they kind of offset. Yeah, there's better investments, better tax policy in place, but then we zapped all the global demand, but with the trade war. And we didn't really get a lot of this investment last cycle, or not as much as we probably would have expected given the strength of the economy. This cycle is different for all the reasons we're talking about today. And we expect to see ongoing business investment, both nationally in Oregon, and we've already seen it locally in the Redmond community, which is tremendous news for long run opportunities for the state of Oregon. The other side of things, though, which is going to be a little bit harder to solve is labor, right? Labor market is tighter than you think. We just went through a massive recession, but it's really hard to find workers. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Really, I think the number one reason is that strong household finances. That's a combination of those recovery rebates and, to be frankly honest, the unemployment insurance benefits, right? Where the average worker in Oregon today on unemployment insurance benefits is receiving 100% wage replacement. That is, for not going into their work, they're getting 100% wages of what they would have gotten had they been going into work in the past year. And so I think that, right, is a constraint on labor supply. Some people are taking advantage of that. And it's important to keep in mind that that was the whole point of the policy. The whole point of the policy was to make households and workers financially whole so they didn't have to go into work during a pandemic. Now, I think the economy, again, has proved more resilient, is growing faster than anticipated when a lot of these federal policies were put in place in the last year, right? Things are looking up. Things are better than expected. And so in the meantime, these policies are still in place. They will go away, right? The enhanced unemployment insurance benefits will expire Labor Day. And so I think we'll see some people come back to work after that. The recovery rebates are done. I don't envision another round of that coming, but both of those are the same size in aggregate. The recovery rebates, through the 3 rounds of those, plus the unemployment insurance benefits, they're the same size in total. It's not just one or the other. Combined, they've resulted in those incomes being significantly higher. That's also the whole reason why the economic outlook is so bright. Without those in place, we'd be talking about a much worse cycle, something much more long-lasting and slower growth in the recovery. So I think that's probably the number one reason why it's a lot harder to find workers. You have pandemic fears. The virus itself is keeping people at home, particularly among those that are unvaccinated. Of course, the good news on the vaccine front is those continue to ramp up slower today than they were a month or two ago, but still they're going up. That's good news. And then we have other things. possibly an increase in retirements as the baby boomers continue to hit their traditional retirement years. And then the lack of in-person schooling and childcare is also a constraint on moms in particular, much more than dads, given the way how our society operates, with moms bearing the brunt of the child rearing and the household duties and the kinship and maintaining relationships. We know that it is very much a mom-centric focus in our society, and dads projecting here, but we skate by on a lot of these things. Those things are all going to go away, right? So a lot of those pandemic-specific circumstances will go away. Labor supply, availability to find workers will get a little bit better this fall, but underlying that is a tight labor market, a strong economy, usually due to those demographics with those ongoing retirements each and every year for the next 15 years until the baby boomers are fully out of the workforce and into their retirement years. And then as the migration flows are relatively strong in Oregon, but maybe not as strong as they were relative to the retirements in decades past. So what does this mean for the wage outlook? Well, it's good news for workers because a tight labor market means we'll see an acceleration in wages. We've already seen that above and beyond sort of just a compositional effect. What we saw wages spike, average wages increase significantly at the start of the pandemic, because the way you think about average wages is like, well, how many manufacturing jobs do you have? How many construction jobs do you have? How many bars and restaurants jobs do you have? And as we've lost, we lost 20, 30, 40% of our employment at bars and restaurants, our lower wage jobs. That means that people that kept their job, the average wage was higher for compositional reasons, for mathematical reasons when you calculate the average wage across the entire economy. But since then, we've seen an underlying increase in wages across the board and in all sectors. Right now, average wages in Oregon are up 9% above trend, above pre-pandemic expectations. Right? So they're up 10, 12% overall. That's 9% above expectations. And it's because of this competition for workers is driving the wages up. Good news for businesses is with that really strong consumer demand, you can better able to afford higher wages. You're better able to pass along cost increases to maintain profit margins in such a strong economy with such strong demand. Now, I think that's the key part, that when it comes to another risk in a supply constrained economy is inflation, right? Is if we have all this demand and we're not able to produce as much, one outcome is we just see a lot higher inflation. And so it kind of erodes that demand ability on an inflation adjusted basis. Now, I think we're not going to see anything really outside of the norm when it comes to inflation, but it's important to keep in mind there's a wide range of possibilities here. That's my last part today. We'll be talking about these risks. I think they're real. We have to recognize the fact that we're out of sample here. We've never been through a pandemic unless you remember 100 years ago. And the range of outcomes is wider than usual because we haven't been through this before. Right now, we're seeing 3, 4, 5% inflation on a year-over-year basis. A lot of this is expected to be transitory, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see stronger numbers over the next few months, right? Because a lot of prices sagged at the initial start of the pandemic. Hotel room costs, airfares and the like, rental cars, used cars, a lot of these things, the prices declined for a while a year ago. And now as we're getting to the reopening phase and strong spending, these prices are surging. And that's kind of pushing inflation back up kind of the old trajectory. We're going to surpass the old trajectory, but that's kind of where we're at now, is we're kind of back to that old trajectory and we're going to go above it. But what is this level shift up? It's really a one-time level shift up in prices. And what is that going to look like? 5, 8%? I wouldn't be surprised to see something like that. Just this morning, the Federal Reserve raised their inflation forecast, not significantly, but they did raise them in their latest projections. And I think recognizing the fact that we're going to see some sort of level shift up. Now, what the Federal Reserve really cares about are not these one-time moves associated with the reopening of the economy. They're really concerned about persistent inflation, where prices increase significantly year after year after year after year. That is what's really going to drive the Federal Reserve and policy changes. And I don't think we're there yet. The key thing to keep in mind when it comes to longer run inflation is really about those wage dynamics, right? We're expecting wages to continue at a healthy clip. I think we expect to see inflation at a reasonable clip, maybe a little above expectations. You can kind of see in this forecast from a national vendor. They're expecting inflation to be a little above the 2% target for the foreseeable future. Once we get past these one-time reopening things, I think that's a reasonable baseline. maybe even a little bit stronger, but nothing crazy, nothing hyperinflation, right? We're not going to see things go out of whack like maybe we did in decades past, but I think it's reasonable to expect with stronger labor market, faster wage gains, we could see stronger inflation in the years to come than anticipated, and certainly faster than what we saw last decade. You can kind of see in this chart too, the green line relative to that horizontal line at 2%. But really for the entire cycle, we undershot inflation. We had lower inflation than the Federal Reserve says they wanted to see. And we were kind of saying, oh, it's below expectations, but it'll accelerate in the years ahead as the economy strengthens. It'll accelerate in the years ahead. Well, now we might be in the situation where inflation is a little above expectations, and they're like, oh, it'll cool down. It'll cool down. That possible dynamic is certainly in play, but a wide range of outcomes available. See strong inflation for the next handful of months, no doubt. After that time, it'll probably be tied to the pace of the labor market and the wage inflation that we're seeing, because you really need that strong underlying income growth to pass on higher prices on a consistent basis to the overall economy. You put that all together and the outlook's very bullish, right? We're expecting exceptional growth, maybe record-setting growth over the next 6 to 9 months in the economy, certainly the fastest we've seen in decades. And there's some risk to that. Maybe we can't grow that fast. So that means 2021 might be slower, but 2022 and 2023 will be faster. I think we'll get all of this growth. It's just a matter of the timing. It might be a little slower than expected this year, but faster next year, which is still good news for the overall economy. And then there's the inflation risk, which is a bit of an unknown at this point, this early stage of the cycle. Here's my contact information. Always happy to chat. I appreciate your time this afternoon.
Lehner from Salem, I just tell you, I really appreciate somebody who speaks fluent econ and can bring that down to my sort of undergraduate level. Josh, I really appreciate it. And also appreciate you taking a couple of extra minutes. He is going to take a couple questions from the crowd. That's you. And here's how it works. If you're here in person, just raise your hand. We'll call on you, shout out your question, and we'll transfer it to Josh. If you're out there in virtual world, and we hope you are, and we thank you for tuning in today, then just go to there's a little chat box on the right side of your screen, and you should be able to enter your question there, and somebody will run it up to the stage or get it to Josh somehow. So that's the deal.
That's right. And it looks like we've got our first question right there in the middle. Hi, Commissioner DeBone.
Hello, Josh. Tony DeBone, Deschutes County Commissioner. When we talk of inflation and the cost of lumber, what does that roller coaster ride look like from your point of view?
You know, reading some of the comments this morning, because I'm competing right now with Chair Powell with his press conference, but he called out lumber as a good indicator for inflation in the sense that we had a massive run up in prices, a quadrupling of prices. Obviously, we don't want to see the economy quadruple, but they've now come down by a third already, right? We had a combination within the lumber market where we did have a legitimate supply-demand imbalances. Mills kind of shut down, started doing some upgrades and maintenance work at the start of the pandemic because we just lost 20% of our jobs. Housing demand is going to be weak. That's just how it always works, but not this time because of that income story. And so that created a supply-demand imbalance. And then we had some financial market excesses, clearly, where day traders or financial investors were also playing the game too. There's a difference in commodities between the actual use of the product and then the financial market aspect of it. We had some excesses there too, but now the prices are coming back down pretty healthy. But I don't think they're going to go back all the way to where they were, right? We're not going to go back to $300 or $400 per thousand board feet. Cost of production is probably in that $500 per board feet range. So ultimately, you'd expect the price of the commodity to come back down to the cost of production. But we're still a ways there. But the prices should be fine moving forward.
Thank you. Good question there. Anybody else in the audience have a question for us, or in the virtual audience? All right, right on.
Oh, my name is Brooke Slider. I'm the accounting director at the city of Redmond. So with all of the workers that are staying out of the market searching for jobs, are you expecting a certain percentage to return or to a certain percentage to stay out of the workforce?
It's a great question. It's an unknown. To be honest, my operating belief today is we're going to get almost all of them back. We should get almost all of them back in the next 6 months. To be honest, I don't see a long-term permanent decline in labor supply other than retirements. If we saw an acceleration in retirements where we did see some older workers staying in the workforce longer last cycle because it was a good economy, higher wages, had to rebuild those nest eggs coming out of the Great Recession with housing market being down so far and the stock market being down so far in 2010, took a while to rebuild that retirement nest egg. So if we did see an acceleration of retirements in the last year, I don't expect that to come back. So the demographics might have gotten worse from a labor perspective if you're looking to hire, but the rest of the folks, the people of prime working age, I expect all of them to come back when the pandemic's over, the kids go back to school, we lose the federal aid. I just don't see an underlying current of what's shifted in the economy to keep them permanently out of the workforce. We had a big problem last cycle where it took years and years and years for the people to come back into the labor market. But because we have more plentiful job opportunities today, job openings are through the roof, unlike last cycle, and wages are also growing quite rapidly, unlike last cycle. That's usually the traditional ticket to get people to come back and look for a job, is having a lot of opportunities at higher wages. Well, we have those already today, so I expect them to come back. But it is a risk when you see so many people on the sidelines. Just exactly how quickly they come back is always a risk.
Couple more minutes, time for a couple more questions. Anybody else? Down front, Sean Wilcox, CO Daily News. Wait, hang on a second. Michelle is running up the microphone. Hang on. Just hold your horses.
Talk to us about housing prices. It's gotten to a point where folks who live here, who have good jobs, can't afford to buy homes. Is that going to change?
Unfortunately, no. I think we have actively chosen to underbuild housing for a generation in the state of Oregon. Our housing deficit is massive. Central Oregon's actually done better. Just the demand is so much larger to live in a beautiful scenic area like that. But if you look at the production numbers, Deschutes County has done really well, but not well enough. Nowhere has, and so that's a really big challenge. And so when you restrict the supply of housing, or either via policies or informally in society, it's a recipe for rising prices when you have such a strong demand to live in a place like Oregon. I think it is important to keep in mind that most of what we've seen in the last year can be explained by the record low interest rate. When you see a full percentage decline in interest rates, as we went from late 2019 at around 4% mortgage rates to late 2020, it's sub 3%, so 2.6, 2.7% mortgage rates. That offsets about a 13, 15% increase in prices, right? Now, of course, the numbers of the price appreciation is more like 20, 25%, but at least, most of that was offset by those record low mortgage payments. And so that monthly payment you have to make to the bank stays the same. It offset a lot of that sticker cost. Now, moving forward, interest rates have settled in around 3%, it looks like in recent months. If we continue to see this price appreciation on top of these interest rates that aren't declining anymore, then we start talking about having real housing problems above and beyond just the bad affordability we have already.
Oh, great. There we go. Our first virtual question.
I got one from Zach Boone. He says, I've read that surging demand could come with inflation, something the economy has avoided for more than 2 decades. Do you see that as an issue moving forward?
I think it's certainly a risk, as I ended there with that last slide. I think a lot of the temporary burst of inflation we're going to get is exactly, it's transitory. It's one-time level shifts up associated with working out the supply chain problems that we have. But the persistent nature, it could. I don't think the expectation is that. We have a long-run demographic thing, and if you look historically, it's really about some of the things that can drive inflation on a persistent basis is a lot of people in their 30s and their 40s buying homes, buying furniture, buying cars, getting wage increases because they're entering that peak earning years in their careers, all that sort of stuff. And we're going to have that with the millennials. But at the same time, we have the baby boomers transitioning into the retirement, which is an even larger generation, or at least, as a proportion of the previous retirement population. And that's very disinflationary, right? You earn less money in retirement than you did working your job, you spend less money and the like. That's a very large disinflation, disinflationary pressure. So that's going to persist too. So I think the baseline is for maybe a little bit moderately faster inflation, not significantly so, but it'll be hard to know, at least today.
Great questions, everyone. Thank you for that. Big thank you to our guest, Josh, for being here. Josh, that was very informative. We appreciate your time. Thanks so much for joining us from Salem, Josh.
Really fantastic. The X's and O's of our local economic condition just laid out beautifully there. We want to get back to recognizing some of the sponsors who have helped put this event together and support it on this gorgeous day. Listen to Travis Browning and Craig Hunt of First Interstate Bank.
Hello, I'm Craig Hunt, Vice President, Commercial Relationship Manager, and SBA Specialist at First Interstate Bank. First Interstate Bank and its employees are honored to sponsor this luncheon and to continue our long-term support of REDI and its commitment to guiding us towards a more vibrant community. In 2020 alone, First Interstate donated $5 million to the places that we call home, and more than 18,000 volunteer hours. I'm honored to be among you today and proud to be a REDI board member. I would personally like to thank John Stark and the REDI board for the great work they do to make our community strong and vibrant. Thank you for allowing First Interstate Bank to be a part of this luncheon.
And a big thank you right back to First Interstate Bank. Well, we've got another exciting group of folks coming up to talk to us and just put it real for us, how things really are going out here in the Redmond economy. And we're going to be hearing from three of these panelists right now. And many businesses have been impacted in ways that have changed them forever. So these three panelists are going to be sharing their stories of how the pandemic directly affected their each unique business.
We're just coming at you with more information today. One company accelerated, one has held the line and thrived, and another is an example of a true resiliency story. Our panelists here to share their rising story. Matt Tobolski, where are you? Come on up. Matt is the president, the co-founder of BaseX Solutions, custom HVAC manufacturer focused on delivering high-efficiency solutions to the data center, clean room, and commercial industrial markets. And since its inception, BaseX has experienced substantial growth, mostly because of the development of value-added solutions and the hard work and dedication of an extremely talented team. You're going to need to pick up that microphone, and when you get to talk, push up that button and turn it on. Next.
All righty. Next for us, we have Ryan Churchill with Initiative Brewing. All right. Ryan is the CFO at Initiative Brewing. After spending time in the nonprofit realm teaching finance to others, Ryan launched his own business around his passion for craft brews, something I think a lot of us can relate to. He graduated from the University of Oregon in 2013 with his Bachelor's of Science in Economics and minors in Business and Mathematics. And in addition, Ryan has more than 8 years of experience in the restaurant industry. Welcome, Ryan.
Number 3 today, Steve Piazza, President and CEO of Wild Mike's Ultimate Pizza. Come on up, Steve.
All right.
The purveyor of frozen pizzas with no artificial ingredients, it says here, for more than 40 years. Steve has continued a family tradition from his father's dream of bringing families together and groups together through the connection of good food. Made with clean, labeled, great-tasting ingredients, Wild Mike's Pizza, currently available in all 50 states, in school lunch systems, and in multiple retail store locations. Thank you, all three of you. Really appreciate your time.
Yeah, quite the spread for you guys being here. I'm going to start the first question. However, I think we might have skipped a part real quick. We're going to give you each the opportunity to tell us about your businesses and tell a short story real quick, because I know we can introduce you, but I think you can probably tell your story maybe a little better sometimes than we can. It's after you, Matt.
So good afternoon. Matt Tobolski, President, co-founder of BaseX Solutions. Kind of the intro, gave a little taste of what we do, but basically we are a custom air conditioning manufacturer. Kind of going in to when we started BaseX over here. Been very fortunate for the support of this community as we've grown and taken over what I always joke is still known to this day as the former Walmart building versus the Basic Solutions building. But we've seen exceptional growth here. A lot of it's really been driven by an amazingly talented and committed workforce. Certainly the challenges are real about labor shortages right now that we feel on a daily basis. But really, we've had an exciting few years. Obviously, if you drive by the southern side of Redmond, you'll see the expansion we have going on. Yeah, and really that's kind of driven a lot by the focus we have on unique data center cooling products. And so really the vast amount of our growth has been in data centers. We do a lot of clean room work as well. But that's been where we've grown and really look forward to continuing that growth here in Redmond and honestly further outside of Redmond as well.
Wonderful. Thank you. Ryan?
Hello. Ryan Churchill, president and co-founder of Initiative Brewing here in Redmond. We opened mid-2019, so we're very new to the scene here in Redmond. Very new. Some of you guys I definitely recognize. I'm sure a lot of you have been there, and I've probably been there, but just upstairs or in the kitchen or doing something else. If you haven't been there, we really pride ourselves on high-quality ingredients across the board, from our food all the way to our beer. And hope to get to share our story of how we survived this pandemic with you guys later. Thank you.
Hi, Steve Piazza from Wild Mike's Ultimate Pizza. We created Wild Mike's in 2001. Piazza Pizza was founded in 1967 by my father. And then in 2001, when we created Wild Mike's, we went from a refrigerated manufacturing company, private label, to mainly branded, and we wanted to bring pizza to the American school system, to the stores. It was 100% all natural, no artificial anything, and we've been driving that. We've maxed a facility out in Clackamas, Oregon. We looked to expand our national footprint, went and visited other areas, met John and the team in Redmond, and just became ecstatic that we were able to keep the company in Oregon. So we'll expand on that more later. Thank you.
Wonderful. Welcome to all of you. Well, I'll start with the first question. So in just a few phrases, can you tell us what was the biggest thing that your business had to overcome in the past 15 months? So March 2020 to right now.
It's a loaded question, a few statements, huh? Obviously, kind of three main areas that we felt pretty big impacts. From a sales perspective, we've always kind of gone out there and had a diversity of sales markets in our minds. So commercial industrial products, data centers, and clean rooms. And in that commercial market, it's high-end institutional facilities and healthcare markets. And basically, pandemic opens up, and every single order that was on the floor in that product line or in the pipeline, gone. And we talk about healthcare as the biggest one. You would think in the midst of a pandemic, hospitals would be a very stable, growing customer. But basically, with the financial impacts to healthcare systems and the difficulty in working in those environments due to COVID restrictions, every hospital project, surgical center, everything we had going on just went away. So really for us, it was a big pivot, focused on data centers. That was really our big push during the pandemic, and really paid off with some exponential growth within there. But okay, on the other end, on the operations side, you imagine COVID restrictions, labor shortages, supply chain issues. Our operations team probably has no hair left trying to manage the implications. And so it's really been a challenge. It's driven up costs. We compete with a lot of south of the border companies in the manufacturing realm where the restrictions were nowhere near as severe. And so we had a very strong and challenging kind of balancing act of rising labor costs, challenges in getting parts here, expediting. I mean, we had to air freight compressors from Germany on dedicated planes. So very cost effective, as you imagine. And that was really the impact. We are a customer-centric company. We're going to commit to keeping our word to our customers. So we had a lot of absorbed costs, basically, in balancing that from an operations perspective. So it's been unique, and obviously in the midst of it, I saw Steve in the crowd. We also had SunWest building a giant expansion for us, which in and of itself has plenty of challenges in the midst of a pandemic. But all in all, I mean, we've weathered the storm. We've grown through it, and definitely kind of a lot stronger kind of because of this.
Thank you. Hearing that stronger message is what we like to hear. Very good. Ryan?
Perfect. So yeah, like I mentioned earlier, we weren't even at 9 months, and unlike a lot of other companies or businesses, we lost pretty much our main source of revenue. Initiative Brewing has been a story kind of pivot since day one. Just, if you've followed us from back when we signed our lease back in 2018 to when we actually opened almost an entire year later, 6 months off track, everything we've done has been a series of overcoming the next biggest challenge. So during COVID, first we were shut down entirely, and we had to figure out how to run a giant business with only two people, my business partner and I. So we were the operations team. We were the one on the floor. We did everything day in and day out. And then, that was in the early pandemic. We obviously saw things change in our industry constantly. We were allowed to have only takeout initially, and then we were able to do that with just two people and bare bones. And then as demand grew, thanks to just the local community pointing us in the right directions and so on and so forth, we were able to weather that storm. And then it was outdoor dining, and and then there was extreme, and then it was the risk levels, and then it was different risk levels, and every week we had a new challenge, whether it was labor shortage, supply chain, like we couldn't get the beef that we normally get from the single farm, we had to change patties. It was every day something new came up, and it was just really nice to see the community there to kind of help us and point us in the right directions. This is a big shout out to the people that volunteered to help us weather that storm in the beginning, middle, and end. Right now, we're still dealing with a lot of the labor shortage, which I know everybody hears about, and it's been a struggle as things kind of balance back up. But we're here, and we're really liking where we're at. So.
We keep hearing that message, which I love so much, community and supporting each other and really keeping people alive throughout the pandemic. I think that's really beautiful that you had a lot of support there, Ryan. Thanks so much for that. Stephen?
Well, our challenges got really large, really quick. We probably, when the pandemic started, we were probably 60% schools, 40% retail, your local stores. So in one day, basically, 2 weeks, we lost 60% of our business. We had just built it up to work in 2 shifts, 6 days a week, looking to expand. And then the biggest fear was, oh my gosh, we're going to lose our entire crew, outside sales force in other states, everything we built and designed. So we basically all got together and said, look, what are we going to do? We said, well, with our presentation in retailers across America, we didn't have as large retail footprint as we did in the school system. So we basically kind of, let's call it just bet on the come. We just went out and started producing, called cold storage manufacturers, facilities, and said, hey, can you guys handle all this product if we just start shipping you pizza? Most of our schools across America buy truckloads of pizza. I mean, semi after semi after semi. I think we move about 100,000 semis a year of pizza, some goofy number like that. It's a lot. So anyway, we went out and we just started building retail pizza. Part of the problem with that is all the suppliers that we purchased from, they were losing their crew. We couldn't get any packaging. We couldn't get any pepperoni. And so we just started buying from any and everybody, hoping that we were right, because we were faced with a choice of we're either right or we're all out of business anyway. So luckily for us, we were right. So we filled that void in the retail system. Then the challenges came back again in the school system, stadiums, schools, and whatnot. As soon as some state fires up, everybody wants their pizza again. Well, there's not semi-loads of pizza laying around, and they're not easy to build at that kind of speed. So from the distributors across America, in fact, we're ramping up right now with our taste of that, because we couldn't fill it early on for the schools that were coming back. A lot of the Florida schools, some of the Texas, some of those folks came back, and then a lot of the other ones didn't. But in our business, if we don't deliver a semi of pizza with an order put in Thursday, leaving down the road the following Monday, people are upset. Well, it's all in advance. So right now we're doing just the opposite there again. We're looking at the school business coming up this year. All the warehouse systems are empty. Pipelines, kind of like the lumber and everything we heard earlier, all these systems are empty. And so anybody that's not reacting to just building in advance it's a problem. The good news is we did it. We actually increased our labor force from about 100 to 120 people. The 20 were actually temp workers filling that void. Labor was very tough. Production workers will say typically $15 an hour to build pizza, $20 an hour just to try to find people to come in. Good news is we're getting the job done. Today, we're just trying to survive and be ready for the re-entry today, kind of like walking in here. I probably got about 50 or 100 footsteps and said, oh my God, I was delusional. It's back to normal. I forgot we were even in a pandemic. So anyway, pretty exciting to see everybody here and onward and upward.
Indeed. Fantastic. My main takeaway from your comments is that's a lot of pizza.
It's a whole bunch.
That's 100,000 semi-truckloads of pizza. Next question, and we're going to start. Steve, since your pipes are nicely oiled after speaking, you're going to take it first.
There you go.
Sort of curious about exactly what kind of interaction you've had with REDI, how they might have helped you get to where you are and get through the last 15, 16 months, help with major strategic decisions or whatnot. How's REDI helped your world?
Well, we did an expansion about 7-8 years ago when we did our bakery working with, we're in Clackamas County, great county, things were going good. So we had some experience with working with the city, whatnot, trying to get, another manufacturing facility put together. And then that was our baseline. So when we went out to look for property to expand, we were working with John and his team, a couple Zoom meetings, and I was sitting there telling our team, man, these guys are dynamite. In fact, I think our team can do the job and work with them, and I can just stay on getting ready for, the expansion in 2 years. Typically, that's not done. One thing I would say, anybody that's a business that wants to come to Central Oregon, talk to me, because this team is the best team I've ever seen. To allow a owner of a company be able to kind of stay out of that lane, and they've gotten done what they've done probably in 6 or 8 months with us, incredible. So nothing but hats off to everybody in this audience. Thank you.
Great stuff. And just remember that when you first open the doors, we want to be the first camera through them. That's Central Oregon Daily News, okay? Ryan, same question to you. Help, engagement, connection with REDI through the last crazy time, last 16, 18 months.
Back when we first were looking at Redmond, that's when we first met John Stark, and really helped show us what Redmond was all about. And I didn't understand how, and he showed us the numbers, and those are great as a U of O grad and econ. I was like, yeah, this looks good. Yeah, but I didn't, it obviously takes more than just good numbers on paper. But John Stark, during the pandemic specifically, and the REDI team were there with bells on, with emails letting us know, like, hey, there's this grant you got to check out. Hey, there's this, coming on by and just making sure. In addition to, I know people coming by and ordering takeout food or beers to go. But because REDI is part of the Redmond community, I do want to take this opportunity to thank a lot of people that helped us make it through the pandemic. And I got to get this real quick because I don't want to forget anybody. All right. We want to thank the SBA because we are working with them, getting our brewery expansion loan from them before the pandemic hit and through the pandemic. And with the support, we were able to show the numbers were still viable there, and we got that. They were also sending us information nonstop. The city of Redmond was great. They provided a ton of PPE for us and our employees, as well as delayed any the construction loans they gave us initially, which is just one more reason that we're excited to be a part of Redmond. The Chamber also supported us with Facebook and social media engagement and even more PPE. When the cost of gloves, because one of the restrictions we had was you had to wear gloves when touching food as a new COVID rule, just no matter what. And the cost of gloves went from $40 a box to $70 a box to $180 a box. And we went from going through 1 box a day to going through like 5 boxes a day. So it, getting gloves from the Chamber was absolutely huge. Then it was awesome community here again, just all the business owners that were kind of in the same shoes. Steve from Kobold, Dick from General Duffy's, Matt from Silver Moon, Terry from Jersey Boys, and Adam and Pio from Grace and Hammer, where I was on different email threads. We were chatting every day about what pivots we were doing, sharing ideas and everything. And then once towards the late pandemic, we were able to start selling our beer out of house. We finally hit that production level. Tap rooms were opening back up, and then we had a lot of customers. Our first customer actually being General Duffy's again. And then you can find our beer at Over the Edge Tap House, Jersey Boys, Rim Rock, High Desert Music Hall, which I know they had the ringer thrown at them too with all this, Red Point, Climbing, Grace and Hammer, Beer Stop, Checkers, and a lot of other places in Bend. So it was just incredible to see them buy our beer during such a challenging time, so we really want to thank them. And then and the Umpqua Bank for helping us switch over all our stuff mid-pandemic on the fly to get us the PPP loan. It was just, it was incredible how so many people did things so fast and in such a weird time frame where I was taking a to-go call, running down, jumping on my computer, and people would be on hold and allow us to do that. So, and then just everybody that came and donated, people, Facebook tips, I was able to buy a tent for $600 online in Bend new when people were renting tents. People donated heaters, propane tanks, and so I just want to thank everybody I forgot and all the community for coming through and just making sure that we made it through. So.
That is so great to hear about that network among people making and selling beer and making and selling food and trading ideas and tips and whatnot. That's fantastic to hear. Matt, you guys have been expanding, I don't know, since the first time I was ever aware of you. You've been pushing out walls and expanding. So what has REDI done for you guys in terms of getting through, pursuing that business plan and getting through the last year and a half?
Yeah, certainly, the balancing act of the operations side was enough of a challenge. And so throwing in an expansion kind of in the midst of that in a pretty large scale, John Stark probably got sick of my phone calls. I imagine every time he saw the phone ring and my name popped up, he probably wanted to press reject. But between John, he really was kind of an amazing resource for us to make the sort of logistics of permitting, expedited permitting, and the variety of challenges that came up during the construction project. He was basically our go-to man to really help with the city. Also want to acknowledge the city. Mayor Endicott probably also got sick of our phone calls here and there. But, it certainly was a really great amount of support from John, from REDI, from the Redmond community, and really taking the expansion and making it less of a burden to deal with in the midst of a pandemic. So I was certainly very appreciative there. And then the other end of it, the labor shortage is a very real thing. It's very impactful for our business. We've got 60 open jobs that we still can't fill. And so, talking to John on weekly basis, getting in touch through John with the economic development teams, with the economists from the state of Oregon, really helping provide clarity on, what is this labor shortage? Is it short-term? Is it long-term? Is it, really about the unemployment benefits? And really a lot of great intel John was able to kind of spearhead and get to us that allowed us to make the decisions we had to make and kind of how we respond to that. So much like was mentioned on the pizza side, $15 an hour used to be a starting entry-level, no experience, production-level job within our company. And we are hard-pressed to find somebody for $20 an hour right now. And that's the reality of the wage growth. And, the challenge for us, again, I kind of keep bringing it up, but we have a lot of out-of-country competition that they set the price point. There is no, hey, but we're made in America. Data centers don't care. I hate to say it. And so, kind of understanding that, getting the information to allow us to make decisions about how we go to market from a labor perspective, or really one of the major things we did was we spent over $10 million in automated machinery to basically kind of quell a little bit of the labor impact. And so really they've been an amazing resource. They continue to be an amazing resource, and hopefully John keeps answering my phone calls.
All right, everyone, thank you. I think that if we've gathered one message from you three, it's that they probably will keep answering your phone calls for them already. We are going to do another Q&A with these folks. So if you've got any questions here, we're also going to be taking our Q&A from the virtual audience once again. But yeah, if you do have a question, Michelle's got a microphone here, and we'll get your question out to the panelists. For our virtual audience, go ahead and put your comment in the chat there, and we'll be sure to relay these to these three business owners. All right, looks like we got one.
Michelle is on the run.
Oh, I think you might not be on. There we are. Thank you. Good note there too, Alan, is to introduce yourself. Thank you for that. Oh, dang it. Let's take 3. Let's give it a shot. One more.
Ooh, there we go.
All right.
Alan Unger from Central Oregon Community College. I would like to ask you, through using the Redmond school system or the community college or Oregon State University, how can we help you get more employees?
Yeah, that's a great question. How can we help get you some workers?
Jumping in real quick before anyone else does, because I only need like 5 people and not 60. I know COCC has the culinary program, and I know I've tried to reach out to them because cooks, if you look on Craigslist or anything else, are a huge demand for our industry. A lot of people left for higher end construction jobs and manufacturing jobs because the pay is so good and the it's not as brutal on your body. But I know there's a lot of aspiring chefs out there, and so I think I'd like to be in contact with someone from the COC department for the Culinary Institute, or again, anyone who just wants general, basic, entry-level work experience. Because I was 16 once, and I was a job as a busser, and here I am now. So,
Matt, you want the next shot?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean we've had some amazing talent come out of the local school communities. From the local high school communities. As well as COC, Oregon State. I mean, Oregon State Cascades, we have a large number of energy systems engineering students that we have funneled through our doors since we opened. So great program, great training. Love to see the university systems expanding. COCC, certainly from the trades perspective, our biggest challenge is on hiring. I mean, general assemblers is a challenge, but we can train them. We can bring anybody in and teach them what to do. The electricians, refrigeration pipe fitters, and welders. I think they're unicorns in Central Oregon right now, and we're trying to capture them. So certainly growing that development programs within COCC, within the technical side, would be an amazing resource.
We're probably somewhat in the same lane there. Electrical, maintenance. We have a lot of controls in the pizza automation. The facility's 100% automated. There's probably, 2,000 electrical lines hanging from the ceiling just to run all the equipment. Today in Clackamas, we have a shortage of maintenance and electrical people. Over here, we'll probably roll in here with a massive shortage. We'll probably, day one, need 10 or 12 people in that skill set. Going forward, as the brand expands across America, the marketing, graphic design will be tremendous. A lot of sales and marketing people. In the general labor, there's bakery. We can teach a lot of that, but the experts in those fields are very, very important. Quality control, safeguard, sanitation, HACCP, the list goes on and on. So we'll be looking, maybe getting together early on and actually asking for, meetings set up, interviews and whatnot to find the associates when we come to Redmond, hopefully in about 2 years. The initial request from employment here will probably be about 50 to 75 new associates when we come in. So large, not real large in the beginning, but we'll probably bring about 50 people with us when we come, and then we'll look to add about 50 to 75 when we get here.
Great. Michelle, time for one more?
Yeah, we actually have one online. The question is, what does the future look like for you?
Who's up? That's an easy one.
Yeah, I swear that was the third question that was on the list. So in the future, in the short term, I mean, labor shortage is not going away. Supply chain issues are not going away. So the operation side is going to continue to be an extremely dynamic process for us. And it's definitely going to drive decisions being made. But from our experience and kind of where our growth is going, we grew 65% last year in revenue. We're on track this year to actually double our revenue. We just wrapped up before this a meeting with our sales team, what we have on booked orders. So rapid level of growth. I mean, we're going to be online with a little over 200,000 square feet of space. And we're already planning to basically double that somewhere else. We are constrained from the amount of capacity we have in this local market. So we'll be diversifying geographically, not leaving Redmond, but physically growing additional capacity just to be able to support kind of our sales growth in data centers.
Yeah, I mean, all the doom and gloom is the same, labor, supply chain, but the positive things coming up are looking at our numbers too, we're over 200% growth over the non-COVID months because we were closed down for a good chunk of that. But yes, the future looks great. We're doubling our production capacity in the brewery, so hopefully we'll be able to find us even more tap houses around town, and we're in works with Costco right now to see if we can get our IPAs in there in 4-packs. So hopefully you'll see that in 22, and yeah.
So once we get here, we purchased 46 acres. We originally started with a footprint roughly of 260,000. I think it's up to 360,000 feet for the first phase. And then there's actually 3 separate production lines in the facility being built. Actually, we're putting a tour center through the middle of all 3 of them. So we'll actually have field trips. You'll actually be able to see the product being manufactured. We're actually looking to kind of create what Tillamook has down at the coast, pizza manufacturing. In Redmond, Oregon, you'll be able to even see the mountains over there from the top deck. But the beauty is that the property over there has enough room to expand about 8 to 10 production lines. So we've been running at about a 30% increase for the last 6 years. We're currently at about 65, 70 billion, looking for that 30% growth for 15 years, and our goal really is to become $1 billion brand. So right here in home sweet home.
Fantastic. Good to hear that there's another rooftop location with a view sometime in our future, too. That's just a good thing right out there. Hey, we want to thank our panelists today, Steve, Ryan, and Matt. Really appreciate it. Pizza, beer, high-tech vacuum room solutions. You got it all right here on the stage. Thank you so much. And thank you also for just having us here again. It is so great to see this event and be part of this event again, and so great to do it under the blue skies and sunshine. So thanks to the city of Redmond and to REDI for involving Central Oregon Daily News. We really appreciate it. We hope you've made the switch, and if you haven't, we hope you'll consider it.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us out here. Just what a fantastic day. Big round of applause for everybody who put this on today. Put up all the tables, the lovely centerpieces. Yeah, what a nice lunch outside. Thank you to everyone. And we also want to give a big thank you to Josh here, who gave us so much information visiting us from Salem, and for providing an outlook for the hope and for the future of Oregon citizens. Telling us that I think that we'll get through this together is kind of the note he left us on, so that was really nice. And we also want to thank all the generous sponsors who help support this annual luncheon, and for REDI to continue its efforts creating business prosperity in Redmond. So again, a big thank you to our title sponsors. Those are Bend Broadband. Raise your hand if you're here again. Thank you very much. Big round of applause. Central Oregon Community College and First Interstate Bank.
Also presenting sponsors, Pacific Power, Hooker Creek, and the Redmond Airport. And I have to tell you, when I was in a freelancing phase and working for an international network, I could get to the Redmond Airport and get out to anywhere in the country, usually in half a day. So if I got a phone call and needed to be in D.C. that day for a news report, I could do it. The airport is a fantastic connecting point for so many places so rapidly from this area. Supporting sponsors too, Miller Lumber, Mackenzie Cascade, and Frasky Commercial. Thank you so much.
And wrapping up all the thanks, we would like to thank the Deschutes County Fair and Expo Center once again for having us. That fair is going to be back this summer. That looks like it's going to be a blast. Great concert lineups this summer at the fair. And I think we might be live here, so that'll be a good time for us too out here in Redmond. And we'd also like to thank Umpqua Bank Home Lending for brightening up the tables and the decor. That was Umpqua Bank's doing. So another round of applause for them. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks again for having us, and we can emphasize that we will see you at the fair.
That's right. We'll be there. Thanks again, everyone. Enjoy your Wednesday. Enjoy the weather.